Hello, my lovely friends. And yes, I know we're all busy, but I am wanting to give you 3 simple tips to help you get your novel finished and self published in 2024. This is one of the comments I get most often. When I'm writing or doing videos, it's like, well, yes, of course you can write all the books that you do because you write full time. I've got to do X, Y, Z. And they're right. I do work full time on my writing career. This is basically all I do. So I want to help you because I know it's possible. In this last year, I have written in 2023, I wrote 12 books of my own. I wrote a further 5 books with a collab partner, and I did submitted 2 short stories to anthologies, which were accepted and published. So I did that all in 2023. And I know that sounds like a lot, but as you pointed out, this is all I do. So, how can I help you when you have a busy life with work and kids and everything else? How can I help you write your book in 2024? Let's see. 3 tips. First thing you need to do is to decide that your writing is important. Now, don't click off. This is not some mumbo jumbo woo stuff. It's a valid point. You know from a scientific frame point that your mind takes in a gazillion points of reference every single second of every day. It is filtering information we're not even aware that we're taking in. It's just what our brain does. It's super cool like that. Even as you're watching this, your brain is working on at least a half a dozen things, from appointments you've got coming up, grocery items you've got to add to your list, or you might even be idly thinking about the funny cat videos you were watching last night. It doesn't really matter. Your brain is just working on what it thinks you think is important. However, it is also focusing on those things you have determined are important. If you train your brain to think your writing is important, then it will start working on it. You've got to give yourself some priority headspace. If you tell your brain what you want to do, it's pretty good at filling in the how you can do it. Like, for example, I've always been fascinated by how my brain can come up with scenes and things like that. And I'll be doing something totally different. I'll be nowhere near my computer. I will be folding laundry or doing the dishes or having a shower or whatever else. And then I'll see the scene in my head as clear as day. And it happens so often. And the reason why that happens is because I have trained my brain to understand my stories are important. So it's working on my stories in the background, even as I'm talking to you. That's what happens. I better not get a good scene halfway through this, because another little drawback of getting older is that sometimes I forget what those scenes are. But never mind. So, following on from that first tip, which is training your brain to start making this a priority, the second thing you need, of course, is time. I'm sure we would all love to open our documents in the morning and just wish that the writing fairies had visited and left us a good 2 or 3 chapters of actually really good shit in our book. But of course, that's not how being an author works. And every one of those finely crafted sentences you want in your novel, you have to type yourself. And you're saying, I know, I can hear you screaming at me. I don't have time to write. I'm busy. And I know, between work and family and chores and goodness knows what else you do in a day, it is not easy to cram in an hour or 2 hours, a whole half a day, a whole weekend, or any of those things. It is really, really hard to carve out large chunks of time to work on your novel. You know, no matter how supportive your other family members might be, no matter how much time you might be able to get off work, no matter how relaxed your working schedule might be, it is still really difficult to carve out large amounts of time for your writing. And what happens is when you can't do that, then you just decide that it's not worth it. So don't do that, because you're setting yourself up for defeat from day one. Be a bit more creative in your writing, in your thinking. If you, just as a random thing, if you sat down and you wrote down everything you did yesterday, from the moment you got up to the moment you went to bed, absolutely every single thing you did, I know you will find that there are little pockets of time, little spare 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, whether it's while you're commuting, while you're having a lunch break, when you're just having your first coffee in the morning, when you're having your last drink at night, whatever it is, you will find, if you look hard enough, there are periods of time in your day, every day, when you're not actually doing anything. And by that, I mean you're probably doom scrolling through TikTok or whatever it is that you do. And understandable that you want to do those things because you want to give your brain a rest. But those are ideal real estate. These are times in your day when you could chunk out 100 words on your story. Most smartphones nowadays, they've got things like Notepad or Word, or if you're on an iPhone, they've got Pages. So it's wherever you are, if you've got your phone on you, you can flip open your document and you can just tick, 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 100 words. And you're saying, 100 words? Really? That is not going to get my story finished. Yes, it will. And I am going to give you the math. If you did 3 100-word sessions in a day, and I know you can write 100 words in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I've actually got writing sprints. I'll explain that in a minute. But I've got writing sprints where I try to write, I think it's 500 words in 10 minutes or something. I can't quite do it. But anyway, let's just assume that you can write 100 words in 10 minutes, which is really not hard to do. And if you did that 3 times a day, just for argument's sake, when you get up in the morning and you're having your first coffee, when you're having your lunch break, and again, just before you go to bed, whenever it fits in with you. Maybe you do one 30-minute chunk while you're doing your commute, but you're aiming for 3 times 100 words a day. And if you do that, that is 2,100 words a week. If you do 2,100 words a week for 50 weeks, given a couple of weeks where you might be sick or whatever else, you will have 105,000 words. 105,000 words that you can write in a year by snatching 10 minutes 3 times a day. Just like that. By Christmas 2024, your book could be well finished. And I mean, that's a novel. That's more than a novel. My books that I write and people enjoy are usually between 50,000 and 70,000 words. So in theory, you could actually write 2 books between now and Christmas. You imagine that? 2 books between now and Christmas. Wouldn't that be cool? And you can do that by locking yourself in the bathroom, by leaving in your earphones when you're on a commute, by quietly disappearing for 10 minutes while you're having a lunch break on your busy work thing. And the thing is that while it might initially be a bit difficult to get your head into that writing mindset in these little snatches, you are training your brain. And I guarantee you, within a week, if you just commit to this for a week, you will see results in your story. You will actually start to see your story unfold. And just as a little aside, if you want some help with some short writing sprints, I've actually got some on my Lisa Writes channel, which I will put up here or in the description below. And I have got sprints in there, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or, which seems to be one of my favorites, the lunchtime snack, which is 2 10-minute sprints and time to eat your sandwich. It can be done. It really can. All you need to do is just stick to it. And that first week, as you know, if you try and do anything else, whether it be diet or exercise or any other new habit you're trying to do, that first week or two is always the hardest, but you will be amazed at how much easier it becomes. And every 100 words you write is one step closer to having that novel finished by Christmas. I know you can do that. And so finally, that brings us to tip number 3, which is more like not a caution, but a sort of, let's be real. Set yourself realistic expectations and realistic boundaries. Be prepared to be a bit flexible. I mean, nobody expects you to even want to think about writing if you've got a kid sick home with the flu, that sort of thing. That's totally understandable. But what I did find was once my brain got on this story buzz, I actually found taking those 10 minutes or whatever else to go and tippy-tappy on my story when my little one was asleep. That was a good idea. It gave my brain a break from that, the responsibility of being a parent. It was actually really cool. But just set your goals. You need to set a goal because otherwise it's too easy to ignore. So you set yourself a goal of 2,000 words a week. You fit them in as best you can with your routine. And this isn't talking about getting up earlier, going to bed later or anything else, because I know that I have even promoted that before as a means. But for a lot of people, their routines are really important. And so what I'm saying here is don't change your routine. It's just instead of spending half an hour on TikTok or whatever else, spend 10 minutes of that time tapping out your 100 words. Then spend 20 minutes on TikTok instead of half an hour. You're still doing everything you normally do in a day. You're just grabbing little chunks here and there. When I was married years ago and I just started my fiction writing, I used to be, we used to go to my extended family, never liked me, you know how it is. And I used to have to go to these family do's and they'd all be sitting around talking about people I didn't know and had no interest in. But I used to be able to sit there so happily, my mind quietly working on my story, thinking about my characters, dum-de-doo, dum-de-day, little wee half smile on my face. And and then by the time we got home and my husband was sort of like, oh, what's wrong with you? There's nothing. Excuse me a minute. I've just got to go to the bathroom and go do some typing. Because that's while the scene was still fresh in my head. But what I want you to do, you know how they always talk about reading worms? Well, I want you to be a writing dragon. And I want you to see every one of those little 10-minute writing sprints as your jewels, as your little precious gems. I want you to hoard them, bring them all together, one after the other, until you end up with this wonderful treasure chest that is known as your novel. I guarantee you, if you follow these tips, just do that one little thing, you'll have that novel in your hands by Christmas. Keep writing. As always, put your comments, questions, and everything else below. If you like this content, please subscribe. And if I made you smile, then I'm glad. Hug the ones you love, my friends, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.